What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality podcast. I'm your host. I am Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and on this episode, I have a conversation with my friend Jennifer Whitman, and Jen is a perfect example of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Now, I've known Jen for about 2 years when we first connected through the nutrition talks that I used to host when I was a coach for Hidden Summit, and she was a client of Hidden Summit at the time. She was always speaking up, always willing to learn, and always willing to get outside of her comfort zone, which is exactly why she has been so successful on her own journey. We talk about her fitness journey of losing 100 pounds 3 different times, and how this final time she actually did the inner work that she was always avoiding, and how that made all of the difference to how she's been able to dramatically improve her life. Now, if something scares her, she doesn't veer away from it. She leans into it and she does it. So make sure you share this episode and you give Jen a follow. All of her social media information will be down below in the show notes. And you guys sit back, relax, enjoy. So today I have one of my good friends, Jennifer Whitman, on the podcast. And before I let Jen introduce herself, I want to give kind of a brief intro on why I have different people on the podcast, because I want to show you guys that ordinary people can do really fucking extraordinary things when they set their mind to it. And I think that a lot of people think that they have to be born into greatness, when in all reality, you create it. And you can go through all these trials and tribulations and you find yourself the best version of yourself. Now, Jen and I met when I was a coach at Hidden Summit, and she was a client at the time at Hidden Summit. We weren't, like, she wasn't my client, but she was always on my nutrition talks, and the running joke would be, haha, no pun intended, but she was always fucking running when we were on the nutrition talks or walking. And if you are an OG of the podcast, then you know that there was an episode that I put up of a nutrition talk that we did where Jen was carrying bear spray on her walk because Canada is weird, apparently. But Jen, give a brief intro on who you are currently and, you know, what you do.
So I knew this question was coming and I did not prepare for it. So I'm like,
perfect.
What do I say about myself? uh, So I'm not good at talking about myself. And I'm like here for all the awkward silences because I don't know what to say about myself.
And that's okay. Let me help you out a little bit. Well, first of all,
That was
you're
good.
a mother, you're a mom, you're a
I
great
am.
Pyrenees owner, which is a task all in itself because they're
It
an
is.
interesting breed.
Yes. Yes. She's currently sleeping next to me. I'm like, how long will she stay asleep for? Are we gonna get her barking? Maybe. We might.
Maybe. Yeah, it's always like a taboo. Like, is Kane going to start barking at nothing? Maybe. But I
Yeah.
guess we'll find out. You know,
Yeah.
I like to live life on the edge like that. But, you know, you're also, I know you as a marathon runner. However, you just finished a Spartan race as well.
I did. I did just finish a 10K Spartan race. And then 2 weeks later, well, this past weekend, I ran 17 kilometers. So I did a 2K, a 5K, and a 10K, and decided to do that the day before the race. I texted Eric, who's my coach, and was like, can I do this? Is that okay? He's just like, yeah, if it's something you want to do, like go for it.
Yeah,
Like, okay.
especially when without preparation, because let's be honest, the more we prepare for something, like
Yeah.
the more anxiety that builds up and all that stuff. And there's something about just being thrown into it and being like, can you handle this? You
Yeah,
know?
it was really cool. I'm like, I'm not nervous about it. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't have time to be nervous about it, but it was really cool. And I got to do it with my 12-year-old. So
That's actually really cool. I had a client, we were on a call yesterday and she was talking about how she did her first Murph, and then she came home from her Murph and her kids were like, I want to do it. And they ended up doing like a half Murph. And I think that's so cool because your kids are always watching, you know, and if you can influence them to do all of those incredible things to push their body and show them that they're stronger and they don't have to like conform to something,
yeah,
that's unbelievable.
yeah, yeah. He comes with me to to see my personal trainer. So when I go and he's off of school, so he's coming with me again tomorrow, or when he has a PD day or there's a holiday, he comes with me and he loves it. So my training changes a little bit when he's there, but it's a lot of fun and it's really cool to kind of see him push himself too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the final thing is, well, what do you do for work currently? Because I know that you made a big leap pretty recently.
I did. Oh, it's garbage day here.
That's
So
okay.
that would
It's actually
that would
garbage
be
day
my
here too.
that's the sign that the garbage men are here. For work, I fairly recently started my own business. I am a technical writer and I am working with entrepreneurs to help them create courses to kind of expand how they can share their own knowledge.
How did you get into that, by the way? Because I feel like that's such like a niche field where it's like you really thought about it, where it's like, okay, I'm not
Yes.
just going to help everybody. I'm going to help entrepreneurs who want to spread a bigger mission.
So funny enough, I started off in biotechnology, and that's what
Oh,
I studied. And technical writing is actually part of your requirement for the biotechnology program. And I was like, ooh, this is really interesting. I really like this. And then COVID happened, and I was like, oh, everything's online. My kids are doing school from home, so I'm just going to go back to school too. So I did and took the technical writing program, and now I'm doing all that fun stuff.
yeah. So what were you doing before you took the leap and started your own business?
So I am still working. I have two part-time jobs. So I'm an
Yeah.
operations manager for a dog walking company and then also a construction company.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's actually really cool. And it makes sense because, an operations manager, I feel like you really have to be able to handle shit.
Yeah.
So you're teaching yourself resiliency, not just in life and in training, but also in work.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so let's go a little bit back because I know we really wanted to start off with like where your transformative journey began because the journey is never ending, so it's not like we're ever going to be at like a crossroads, but I think you know we spoke about briefly how it started before you became a part of Hidden Summit. So I kind of want to go into what that means.
Okay. So when I have three kids, with each one of my pregnancies, I gained over 100 pounds.
Shit,
And
really?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
wild.
yeah.
I
And
can't
I
even
lost
see
it,
that on you.
right? Like 250 pounds. Yeah. Yeah. So I also lost it before getting pregnant with the next baby. So all my kids are 2 years apart, and I kind of fluctuated in weight a lot. But the weight didn't come off easily. Like I know you see some people online who are like, yeah, I popped out my baby and that's it. Like
Mhm.
I'm back to my pre-pregnancy weight. Yeah, that did not happen for me.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to like make it normal to be like, hey, you're going to struggle a little bit after the pregnancy. Like once the baby comes out, it's not all like sunshine and rainbows and you're not going to be back to like your pre-pregnancy body. It's going to
Yeah.
take a lot of hard work and effort and like I don't think a lot of women think about too like what goes into it as far as nutrition with like electrolytes and fat intake to produce enough breast milk, but also just like being strong and resilient in your core, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So you have a lot of experience with just like dropping 100 pounds multiple times. That's something that not a lot of people even have one experience with, but you have the
Right?
experience of doing it three
Three
times.
times. Three times. Yeah. Yeah. So I did it, yeah, mostly through like movement and nutrition. I started walking a lot after my babies were born and just kind of pushed them in the stroller and eventually joined Orange Theory Fitness and found a coach that I love, and he is still my personal trainer to this day.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah. Yeah, he started his own business, which is nice. Now I get to work with him out of his home. So
That's
yeah.
cool. So
Yeah.
basically, before you started pregnancy, were you into fitness at all, or was it just kind of
No.
like, no, not at all? So what got
Not
you
at
into
all.
fitness? Was it like, okay, I gained all of this weight through pregnancy. I should probably pay attention to my health now?
Yeah, yeah, it was. I'm like, oh, I have kids. I should probably
Yeah.
pay attention to this
So
stuff.
it was less about like how I look and more about like, okay, I have kids and I need to be a good example and role model and live long enough to be with them.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
So what was different between like the first time you lost 100 pounds versus like the second and the third time? Like, did you learn different things along the way, or was it always like, okay, I'm just gonna burn it off through movement and restrict my calories and just kind of like fall into that?
It was a lot of burning it off through movement and restricting my calories, but I did with my third, but or actually between my second and my third, I worked with a holistic nutritionist who,
Interesting.
yeah, she was offering a free family related program. So I kind of learned a lot from her, and I did start tracking my macros. So I've been doing that for a long time and like weighing my food. So that wasn't new to me when I came to Hidden Summit. But yeah.
So what year did you have your first kid versus your third kid? How old are they?
So 2012 was my first, 2014, and then 2016. They are all born in April. So they are
Wow,
now,
that's wild. So it was literally like 2 years to the date. So what is it, 12, 10, and 8 then?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's funny because my daughter is born on the 11th, my oldest is born on the 13th, and then my middle son is the 26th. So we actually have three birthdays in a row because my husband is the 12th. So we're 11, 12, 13.
So then do you guys just do like a big old birthday party or do you do it individual? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best way
Yeah.
to do it. I mean, just knock them all out at once. Then you don't have to like focus on making like four different birthday parties every year.
Exactly. They all get their own decorations. Actually, this year we just changed the number on the sign that we put up and just left it up. So
Perfect.
yeah, it
That's
worked.
really innovative. I love
Yeah.
that. So then we'll say about 10 years ago is really when you worked with the holistic doctor and you started to track your macros, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you notice that was differently when you were tracking your macros versus prior when you were just kind of like, I guess, just like eating less?
I found that I don't know if I really lost the weight faster, but I felt like I was not restricting myself as much. It wasn't just
Yeah.
like I'm kind of winging this to like eat as little as possible. It was more like, okay, this is like what I'm eating, this is how much I'm eating.
I
Yeah.
feel like one of the biggest mindset shifts when people start to focus on macros, and a lot of people don't think about this because they think like, oh, macros, it's going to be like an obsessive, like I'm restricting my food type thing. But I think honestly, it's quite the opposite when you do it the correct way. Is like when you're not tracking your macros, you have absolutely no idea what you're eating. So you're like, okay, I guess I'll just eat like a lot less, and if I'm hungry, I should probably just eat less, and all that restriction that leads to unsustainable results. Whereas when you're tracking your macros, if you work with the right coach and you get the right numbers, then you're like, oh, wow, I'm eating so much food and I'm losing weight. It's kind of crazy, usually
Yeah.
is the response that I get.
Yeah. I'm eating so much food now.
Yeah. How much food are you eating right now?
We actually just lowered my macros, but I eat
Oh,
over
yeah.
2000. Yeah,
Still
over
eating over
2000.
2,000. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
currently, while we're on that topic, before we
Yeah.
go a little bit into like how you found Hidden Summit and everything, is what are your goals like right now? Because I know you just came off the Spartan race and now you're lowering the calories a little bit. So are you going into more of like a fat loss phase?
No, we just lowered my protein because I was feeling like food
Mm.
was a lot.
Yeah,
A lot.
digestion with a little bit too much protein. Some people can handle it. I can handle a lot of protein, but some people can't.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah. It was like I just feel full all the time. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
I don't.
that's a fine problem to have, I suppose, you know?
Right? Right? I'm like, I'd rather this than be like, I am so hungry. Because
Yeah,
when
because
I do,
most people when they do health and fitness, they expect that like, oh man, I'm depriving myself of the foods that I love, which is not
yeah,
true because for example, Jen had a run this morning and to fuel her run, she had sour patch watermelons,
yeah.
which by the
Whatever.
way are the best sour patch.
They are. They are.
100%.
They
So
are good.
it's really about managing your calories and understanding that, like, hey, you can still eat the foods that you enjoy. It's just like, okay, maybe the amount and the frequency of when you have them is going to change in order for you to be as healthy and feel as good as possible.
Yeah.
So from doing your own thing with macros, like how did you find Hidden Summit? How did that start? Like, talk to me about that.
I found Hidden Summit through one of Katie's reels about,
Every time I think that every fucking person is like, Katie's real. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. She has like a cajillion followers.
yeah. And then I was on Liz's team for the step challenge.
Hmm.
And it was one of the ones where they did one of the big kickoff calls. And I was on that call and I'm like, wow, like I want to be part of this.
I
So
think I remember that because I was at the beach and I was like on this call and I was like, I'm not going to put my camera on because I'm at the beach.
it was huge. There were so many people on it.
Yeah, I know that was such an incredible, that was like the peak of Hidden Summit with the community and everything. It was like the perfect time to get involved. And that step challenge is just like literally a stepping stone into seeing what's truly possible. So you're on the step challenge team. And I'm assuming you just got a part of it because it was like, oh, why not join something
Yeah.
and get a little bit more community involved, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then like I didn't really know anything about it, about
Yeah.
Hidden Summit. I was just like, I've been following Katie. This looks like fun. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got thrown on Liz's team.
Yes.
And what happened from there?
I started working with Liz, and I will cry because
No, you will cry because every time anybody talks about Liz on my podcast, it's like, I'm not going to cry, but you definitely are going to cry. Because
Yeah,
Liz,
you can't.
let's be honest, Liz has been on this podcast before, and honestly, I was actually thinking about it this morning. I'm going to try and get her back on here to talk about some women's muscle fitness type shit. She doesn't know about it yet, but if she's listening to this, she'll know. But I mean,
This is
like,
how
she
she finds
made
out.
such an incredible impact on so many people's lives, and I'll link the episode down in the show notes below where Liz was on and told her story because it's incredible. But talk to me a little bit about working with Liz over, what was it that you were working with her about 2 years at that point?
I only worked with her for about a year, and
Mm-hmm.
then I started working with Sam, Canadian coach Sam, but
Canadian Sam, yes.
Canadian Sam, yeah. Um, but Liz, yes, I don't even know what to say about her. She changed my life. Yeah.
Do you feel like a lot of the work that you did with Liz was less focused on like the outer work and more focused on like the inner work that you had to do?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was. That's all it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did you feel that, like, I don't want to get into the inner work specifically because, like that's your stuff and I don't want you to feel like you have to share it on a podcast. But, the thing that so many people don't realize is that the inner work is as important, if not more important than the outer work, because you can do all of the external work that you want to do. But like eventually your inner work and the shit that you're afraid to face is going to come out and is going to slow you down.
Yeah.
So how did you find that working on that stuff that was a little bit messy to work on? How did you find that that impacted how you showed up in your life and your results?
It was fucking hard. But now I'm like, I can do hard things.
Yeah. I think that
Yeah.
was one of the biggest things that it taught you is like you can
Yeah.
fucking do hard things. And I saw that shift in you.
Yeah.
Like when you were always like the person who would talk up on the nutrition calls, which always replicated somebody who was truly bought into the program and actually earned the best results, let's be honest. Um, But then I would see it like on social media. You're like doing uncomfortable things. You're like climbing ropes. You're like doing all this crazy shit. And I'm like, okay, this girl's got it. But then like I'm coaching your friend Sherry, and Sherry's like I want to be like Jen, where she literally has her macros perfect every fucking day. And I'm like, you'll get there. It just takes time. But Jen like did the work that most people are unwilling to do. And
Yeah.
if you're listening to this podcast and you know that you have some shit that you have to work through, some past trauma, or like you're constantly not believing yourself, you don't think you're enough, you have to face that, because if you don't face it, you're always going to be held back from where you could potentially go.
Yeah.
Because now I bet you have much more belief than you've ever had in yourself.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I have to say, Liz is going to be surprised that I actually agreed to be on this podcast, because I got to tell her on a call that I was starting my own podcast with a friend, and
Mm-hmm.
it just blew her mind. I'm like, yeah, like
Yeah, when you
not
told me
something.
that too, same thing. I was like, Jen starting a podcast, damn, that's growth right there. It just shows the growth. And when you like immediately accepted the invite to be on this podcast, I was like, I know it's going to be scary and you're afraid to do this, but you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things that you always said to me was like, if it scares me, then that means that I should do it. And I'd be like, yep, exactly. Like, and that was the cool part about being a part of Hidden Summit at the time, was that like, yeah, you were being coached by Liz, but all the other coaches were there to support and help you along the way too.
It's true.
So how did you move from Liz to Sam? Was that just like Liz was downgrading clients and Sam was available?
Yeah. Liz asked me if it would be okay to move to Sam. And Sam and I already had a friendship. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, I can work with Sam. I love Sam. She's
Oh yeah.
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
hard not to love Sam. She's just so fucking nice. And I think it's a Canada thing. Although, let me ask you, are there mean people in Canada?
There are.
There are.
There,
They're just few. I guess I don't interact with them because every single person I've met from Canada is probably like the nicest person I've ever met. So you worked with Sam for how long?
not long. So August to January.
Yeah, so a couple months. And then what led you to be like, okay, let me work with Eric? Because
It was
Eric's
Sam.
my coach and Eric's a fucking, I love that man to death.
He's awesome. It was Sam. After Christmas, she was doing our check-in call, and she was like, okay, so like, are we getting back on track? I'm like, back on track. I'm like, I haven't stopped. So
What do you mean? I
I'm
didn't
like, what do you mean
stop.
back on track?
It was
I'm
just
like, I've
Christmas.
just been doing what I've been doing. Like, there was an extra rest day in there. I didn't track on Christmas, but like, other than that, like, I'm just doing the same thing I do every day.
And that's literally how it should be. Like, too many people hyper focus. I think when they're on a fitness journey, they either hyper focus on the holiday where they're like, I have to be perfect on this holiday. And I'm like, no, you don't. It's the other 350 days that define your results. It's about building the habits, right?
Yeah.
Because then when things get crazy and the holidays show up or life smacks you in the face, which it will, then you have those reserves or those habits to lean back on. So that way you can keep your shit together.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
It's
so
true.
you stayed on track basically throughout the holiday. Sam was like, "Okay, how do we get back on track?" And you're like, well, "What the hell do you mean?"
And then I think I may have been that call, maybe in the call after. She's like, okay, like I've been thinking, like we've like done all the things. I don't think that I'm the best fit for you with where you're going.
Damn,
Yeah.
you got broken up with. Is that how you felt? Did you feel like you got broken up with?
No,
No,
no.
okay. Because that's how I felt when Kevin said the same thing to me, basically. Because
Yeah,
we had been working together for like 2 years, and he was like, "Look, Caitlin," and I was like, "Oh my God, Kevin, you're about to break up with me." He was like, I want to start downgrading clients. I think Eric would be a great fit for you. And it's funny because at the time I had just met Eric like in person like a couple weeks prior. And I was like, oh, we had such great conversations. Like I know he knows his shit, but like, bro, you're my man. And then like the first week with Eric, I was like, okay, never
yeah,
mind. Fuck, this is
yeah.
great.
Yeah, so Sam on that call was like, okay, like if you could work with any other coach, who would it be? And obviously it was between you and Eric. I'm like, I am
I'm
more
a little insulted. No, I'm kidding.
okay, but I have a reason, and I
Okay.
think it's a good reason. I am more comfortable talking to you than I was talking to Eric.
That's
So
actually a
it's like,
really, really good reason because I think that a lot of people fall under that, right? When people were in Hidden Summit, a lot of people fell under that where it's like, oh, Caitlin, Sam, Liz, they're so easy to talk to. And
yeah,
there's like Eric in the background, like he seems kind of scary, but he's like
yeah,
the nicest person ever.
he is, he is. So Sam's like, well, I can reach out to him. I'm like, no, I'm like, I can reach out to him.
Oh shit, she took
Yeah,
control. Okay.
I did.
Another form of growth where you're just like, I'm afraid to do this, so I'm actually going to do it.
Yeah, that was the thing. I'm like, I could either wait for Sam to go through like all the hoops. I'm like, or I could just text him and ask him directly. So I did, and he said yes. So that was good.
So you
So,
started working with Eric in like January, February time.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
And
tell me how that's been going.
really good. He's an amazing coach and like exactly what I need with what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. What do
Yeah,
you think are some of the biggest changes that you've seen since starting to work with Eric? Is it more like mindset, nutrition, or training, or is it kind of like all of it?
all of it. So I loved the nutrition talks and I really missed them when they stopped, but now I get personalized nutrition talks where I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking about doing this. And he's like, okay, well, we need to do like X, Y, and Z. And like, this is what it's going to look like. And I'm like, I love this. I love this. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, the
he
amount
answered.
of times I'll say something to Eric and I'd be like, this is what I'm going to do. And he's like, no, it's not. This is what you're going to do. And I'm like, oh, okay, I hear you. Like, I mean, I'm a professional in this game too, but like Eric continues to like kick my ass in the right ways, just
Yeah.
mentally and physically.
Yeah. So when I asked him this past weekend about doing the race, he's like, okay, so like you're gonna do it and like you're going to increase your carbs by this much and you're going to focus on sodium intake. And yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, and it's just a testament to like getting a coach who not only cares about you, but actually knows what they're doing. Because unfortunately, and I've said this a lot recently, anybody can literally be a fitness professional with huge quotations around that word. Because social media, everybody's like, oh, I'm a coach. And I'm like looking at these people, and I'm like, do you even know what you're talking about? Because, like, I have the pleasure of coaching some people who want to be coaches or want to be better coaches. And some of them I'm like, ooh, like we need to fix your education. And so many fitness professionals are focused on like, how do I get more clients? And I'm like, well, how do you actually learn how to get people results? Let's focus
Yeah,
on like the science first. And Eric's like a testament of like, you will never ever see him like market himself very
no,
rarely as a fitness coach. However, he's doing very well as a fitness coach because he gets people results.
he does. He
Mhm.
does. And he's just an awesome human.
Yeah, I mean seriously, like him and I don't know if you met his girlfriend Bailey at the
Yes.
Hidden Summit retreat, but like
Yeah.
I didn't even know she existed. She's awesome.
She is. She is.
Yeah, and it's like I mean you've been through such a journey over like just the last decade, but I think over the last like 2 years really, because you did the inner work, you've been able to really excel. Would that be correct?
Yes. Yes.
So then right now you said, okay, we're lowering calories just because of the protein thing, but truly, what's next? Like, what are you trying to do, not just in fitness, but also in life and career? Like, what are your goals?
So fitness wise, I am training. I don't know if you can call it training, but I will be doing a 3 day, they call it the Maple Leaf March here.
Hmm.
And it is a 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon walking over a weekend. So
Okay, so
Friday,
like Friday,
Saturday,
Saturday, Sunday.
yeah. So 3 events, 10K, half marathon, full marathon. So that's what I am doing this fall.
Nice. When is that?
October? I don't know
October.
the exact
I
date. Yeah.
love the name, by the way. That is
Yeah,
like the most Canadian name
it
I have
is.
ever heard,
It
the
is.
Maple Leaf March.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool. It's different that it's walking because I feel like, you've done the whole run a marathon, run all these things, but like walking, I feel like walking a marathon is different.
Right? I'm like, I'm excited about it. It'll be
Yeah.
fun.
I'll be like,
Because
I've done this. I can do this much faster, but I don't need to.
right? Right? So, yeah, that's like the goal for this year. And
Hmm.
then I'm already looking at Spartan races for next year
I'm
because,
sure
well,
because most people, when they sip the Kool-Aid, they chug the Kool-Aid and then they're drowning in
mm,
the Kool-Aid with Spartan race.
yeah, I know. I'm like, Sarah's like, you can come run it with me. I'm like, not ready for a half marathon Spartan race yet.
Yeah, so it goes what, 10K half? Is half
There's a
like the beast? Is that the
Yeah,
biggest
so
one?
there's a 5, a 10, and the beast, and I think they do like ultras as well, but I don't know if there's
That's wild.
obstacles involved or not. But yeah, yeah,
Is
the
an ultra
almost.
marathon ever something that you would want to do?
I think it would be fun. I think it would be fun.
I feel like every runner is getting to the point where like I feel like it's getting wild. Like we're getting to the point where like, okay, I ran all of these marathons, but I need more, you
I need
know?
more.
And that's
It's
why
not
you're
enough.
doing Spartan races. Like, let's throw some obstacles in there with it, you
Yeah,
know?
why not make it harder?
Oh
Because
yeah,
running is not
100%.
hard enough.
So nutrition wise, what kind of stuff are you focused on right now? Just kind of like maintaining, or are you focusing on building muscle, or is there really
I think
anything other
I
than like
think we're
performance that
still in
goes into it?
maintenance. I think we're still in maintenance.
Yeah.
I
You're
That's
just
what my coach is for.
fueling your body to feel your best, right?
Exactly. I'm just doing what Eric tells me to do.
That's awesome. Great. So, Jen, if you had somebody who was in front of you who was like, "Okay, I'm afraid to take action." What kind of advice would you give to that person? Because I know that a lot of people who are listening to this podcast, because I talk to a lot of people who listen to this podcast, most of them lie there where they're like, I know what I need to do, or I
Yeah.
have a good idea of what I need to do, but I'm afraid to do it. Like, what would you tell that person?
I think you've said this before, but action cures the anxiety of like, if you just start, then you you stop worrying about it.
Hmm.
You just do the thing.
Yeah, I feel like so many people have so much fear and anxiety about taking action, and that what they don't realize is that the action is the cure, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Exactly.
Amazing. Well, I mean, this has been an incredible conversation. I'm really excited for not just being able to get this episode out there to people to hear kind of like just a little bit about you and what you've overcome and how important like doing the inner work is, but is there anything else that you would say to somebody if this was like your last chance to like have a say in anything?
If this is my last chance. Oh, that's hard. I don't know. I don't know.
Just
The
fucking
inner
do
work,
it.
the
The inner
inner
work.
work was really, really hard,
Hmm.
but it was worth it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How would you recommend somebody start that based on how you did it?
I worked with a coach. I wouldn't do it on my own.
Yep. I think that's probably the best fucking advice because I feel like if you try to do it on your own, you're
Yeah.
probably not going to do it. That's
Yes.
the reality.
And
You
also, if something goes wrong and you're like, what do I do now? You have someone to talk to.
know? Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that's the biggest thing is being able to have somebody to talk to because even if maybe they can't help you come up with a solution, at least they can hear you out and you can get that off your chest.
exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jen, for being on the podcast, for sharing your story. And, everybody out there, do the inner work, get somebody to help you with the inner work because that's going to be the one thing that's probably holding you back from becoming the best version of yourself. But Go out today and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.